The kingdom of Ardenthal sleeps under a sky drenched in fire. The moon, swollen and blood-red, hangs above the horizon like an unblinking eye, watching the ruin it has foretold. Below, the valley burns. The scent of iron and ash thickens the air as the war drums fade into the hiss of dying embers. Villages lie gutted, their spires broken, their rivers running red with memory. Among the ruins walks the Alpha King, Rydian, the wolf crowned by conquest, the son of prophecy and wrath. His armor gleams with reflected flame, and each step leaves behind a trail of crushed embers. Tonight, he has fulfilled the will of the gods, the destruction of the last noble bloodline that dared defy the moon's decree, the soldiers whisper as he passes. To them he is legend made flesh, the moon's favored executioner, chosen to cleanse the world of disobedience. Yet behind his golden eyes burns something colder than victory, exhaustion. The screams of those he has slain echo inside him, hollowing him from within. On the battlefield, his blade found a young warrior, a boy with the same eyes as the woman who once spared his life years ago. He killed him without hesitation, and yet the sound of the boy's dying breath haunts him now, as though some part of his soul recognized its own undoing dot above. The moon gleams brighter, whispering to him through the storm that follows slaughter. "One more task, my son," she hums in the language of thunder. "The bloodline must end, root and branch." Rydian raises his head, the glow of her light branding his face. "It is done," he growls to the sky. But the wind shifts, carrying the faint scent of lavender and sorrow. Somewhere beyond the ashes a heart still beats, fragile, defiant, alive. He turns toward the forest, where the glow of the flames meets mist, and for the first time in years, the Alpha King hesitates. The moon pulses once more, cold and merciless. "Then find her," she whispers, "and finish what you began." The night holds its breath, for destiny has already chosen its next victim. Dawn breaks weakly over the edge of ruin, its light too faint to heal what the night has burned. The smoke curls from the shattered rooftops of Ardenthal's border villages, and in the silence that follows war, the forest hums with mourning. Beneath that trembling canopy, hidden among moss and ash, Lyra runs barefoot through the remnants of her world. Her once white gown is torn and darkened with soot, her hair tangled with leaves, her breath sharp with terror and disbelief. Behind her, the wind carries the echo of her brother's dying cry, a sound that cleaves through her chest every time her heart dares to beat. Lyra was never meant for battle. The eldest child, the healer, the gentle one who traced prayers in the dirt while her brother wielded steel. But fate has no use for gentleness. The Alpha King's army came like thunder in the night. Wolves draped in silver armor, led by a man whose eyes shone like molten gold. She had seen him once, years ago, during a council truce that was supposed to bring peace. His gaze had lingered on her even then, quiet and searching. Now that same gaze had burned her world to ash. She stumbles through the forest, clutching the crescent-shaped pendant around her neck, a relic of her lineage, said to have been kissed by the moon herself. Blood trickles down her arm from a wound she doesn't remember receiving. Every shadow feels alive, every gust of wind whispers his name. Rydian, the Alpha King, her enemy. Her brother's murderer, at last, she collapses beside the river that winds through the forest's heart. The water mirrors the sky, pale, endless, merciless, She dips her hands into it, trying to scrub the blood away, but it clings to her skin like a promise. "You took everything," she whispers to the wind, her voice breaking. "I swear I will never forgive you." Above, the clouds drift aside, revealing the full face of the moon. It glows cold and knowing, its light caressing her trembling form. Somewhere in that silence the air stirs, and the divine begins to take notice. For destiny, once stirred by blood, never sleeps. The forest sleeps under a shroud of fog, its silence broken only by the crunch of boots and the distant cry of wolves. The Alpha King rides alone now, his soldiers left behind in the ruins of conquest. The war is won, yet peace eludes him like a ghost. Ridian rides without destination, his thoughts heavier than the armor upon his shoulders. The moon's command still echoes through his skull, "End the bloodline." But her voice no longer sounds divine. It sounds like condemnation. He remembers the boy he struck down, the flash of steel, the desperate cry, the eyes that refused to close even in death. Those same eyes haunt him now every time lightning touches the horizon. He can still feel the warmth of the blood that stained his hands the moment when triumph curdled into regret. The moon had promised absolution through obedience. Yet all he feels is a hunger that will not fade, a gnawing absence that devours every victory. Ridian dismounts by a river, the same that runs deeper into the forest. The air here feels alive, trembling, pulsing, whispering. He kneels by the water and washes his hands, but the blood does not fade. It swirls into the current, forming thin ribbons that catch the light like threads of red silk. "I have done your will," he says softly, voice breaking through the quiet. "So why do I still bleed?" The wind shifts, carrying with it the faintest scent, lavender. He freezes. It is impossible. Every survivor was slain, every soul accounted for. Yet the fragrance clings to the mist, familiar and defiant. He rises slowly, scanning the tree line. "Who's there?" He calls, but only the forest answers. Still, the scent deepens, pulling him forward like a memory he never earned. He does not yet know her name. He does not yet know the moon's cruel design. But somewhere in the depths of that forest, the last heart of the bloodline still beats, and his curse, disguised as destiny, begins to stir once more. Night falls again, soft but heavy, cloaking the forest in silver silence. The moon, pale and watchful, peers through torn clouds like a witness waiting for confession. Lyra moved quietly through the undergrowth, guided by instinct more than reason. Her body aches, her wound throbs, yet her mind refuses rest. She carries no weapon, only the pendant of her lineage, the crescent that glows faintly against her chest, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. The air feels different tonight, denser, alive. She senses it before she sees him, the weight of a presence too vast to belong to man alone. From the shadows ahead, a figure emerges, tall, broad-shouldered, draped in a dark cloak, still damp from the river mist. The faint gleam of his armor catches the light, and his golden eyes, fierce yet hollow, find her through the veil of night. For a moment neither moves. The forest holds its breath. Then she realizes who he is. The air leaves her lungs in a rush. "You," she breathes, her voice sharp as glass. Ridian doesn't speak. He stands there, silent, his expression unreadable. He expected this moment, the last ember of her family, the girl the moon demanded he find. Yet standing before her, the word kill turns to ash on his tongue. She takes a step back, clutching the pendant. "Why do you follow me?" she asks, her tone trembling between fear and fury. "Haven't you taken enough?" "The war took everything," he answers at last, voice low, weary, echoing through the mist. "I only carry what's left." Her eyes flash. "You carry death." He exhales, gaze falling to the ground. "Then perhaps I should lay it down." Silence follows. Not peace, but pause. The moon brightens, its light cascading between them like a bridge of silver. Something unseen binds their breath, their pulse, their fate. The crescent at her throat glows brighter, as does the mark beneath his collar, a mirror. A summons, a curse dot in that stillness. The prophecy exhales its first breath. The blood he spilled is now the soul he cannot escape. The forest exhales as if the world itself senses the shift. The moment stretches long and trembling, two heartbeats mirrored beneath the pale light. Rydian stands frozen, his hand unconsciously hovering over the place where the moon's mark burns faintly beneath his armor. Across from him, Lyra clutches her pendant, the crescent-shaped heirloom that now pulses in sync with his unseen wound. It glows brighter the closer he steps, silver veins of light threading through the air between them. The moon watches from above, her face hidden behind a veil of cloud, as though even she hesitates to witness the cruel fulfillment of her prophecy. For this is not chance. This is design. The blood he spilled was bound to her by ancient law. The moment her brother's heart ceased, her soul was promised to the one who took it. The moon's curse, once dormant, awakens fully now, coiling invisible threads between them like chains spun of starlight and sorrow. Lyra feels it first, the strange heat spreading through her chest, the way her breath falters as the air grows heavier. She stumbles backward, clutching the pendant. "What are you doing?" She gasps. Rydian shakes his head, his expression pained. "It's not me." His voice sounds broken, strained against something unseen. The mark beneath his skin blazes, a serpent of light crawling up his throat. "She's binding us," he growls. The moon has chosen. Lyra's eyes widen, disbelief warring with fury. "Chosen?" She spits. "You murdered my family, and she dares to call that fate?" The wind answers before he can. It howls through the trees, bending branches, scattering leaves, and in that roar, the goddess speaks, not in words, but in will. What is broken must be bound. Fee. The light surges, engulfing them both. Lyra cries out as the pendant fuses to her skin, and Rydian collapses to his knees, the mark on his chest now blazing like fire. Their fates seal in a single breath, the slayer and the survivor, the curse and the cured dot, and as the moon slips free of her clouded shroud, her glow trembles, for even divinity feels shame when love and vengeance intertwine. The light fades slowly, leaving behind a forest changed forever. The air hums with divine residue, the scent of ozone and rain heavy on every breath. Rydian gasps, his body trembling as if dragged from death. The mark across his chest burns like liquid silver beneath his skin, its veins branching outward until they vanish beneath his collarbone. Beside him, Lyra lies motionless, her pendant now fused to her flesh. Its crescent glows soft and rhythmic, like a second heartbeat pulsing beneath her skin. For a long moment, there is only silence. The storm has passed, yet the world feels as though it's holding itself together by will alone. Rydian pushes himself up on shaking arms, his vision blurred, his breath ragged. "What have you done?" He whispers to the sky. But the moon gives no answer, only her pale, indifferent glow bleeding through the treetops, watching, waiting. Lyra stirs, her fingers twitching against the forest floor. When her eyes open, they are not the same. The irises shimmer faintly silver, like pools reflecting the night sky. She sits up slowly, dazed, her hand pressing against her chest. "It burns," she breathes, voice thin. Rydian turns to her, his expression torn between guilt and awe. "She marked you," he says quietly. "The moon has claimed what she thinks belongs to me." Lyra recoils, her anger cutting through the haze. "Belongs to you?" She hisses. "You destroyed my bloodline. You killed my brother." Her words crack the air like thunder. "Then why bind me to you?" Rydian looks away, his jaw tightening. "Because," he murmurs, "fate has no mercy, not even for the damned." The wind moves through the trees, whispering ancient tongues, stirring the leaves into soft spirals. The forest, once silent, now breathes like a living thing. Beneath the earth, roots pulse faintly with light, carrying the echo of the goddess's will. Rydian feels it in his bones, the prophecy awakening like a wound reopened. Two hearts, once enemies, now beat to the same curse. The moon's laughter rides the breeze, quiet, distant, and cruelly satisfied. The forest darkens once more, though the night has barely begun. A mist creeps low across the ground, silvery and alive, curling around their feet like fingers of cold silk. The air grows colder, and the quiet thickens until even the wolves dare not breathe. Lyra clutches her chest, her breath shallow. The pendant, no, the mark, begins to glow again, brighter now, pulsing like a living thing. Rydian's head snaps toward her, sensing what's coming before it happens. "No," he whispers, his voice rough, desperate. "Don't let her in." But the goddess is already here. The light explodes outward, blinding and pure, washing the forest in white. Lyra's body stiffens, her eyes rolling back as her voice drops into something otherworldly. "You disobeyed, my son," the moon's voice says through her, layered and ancient, echoing from everywhere at once. "You killed in my name, yet dared to spare my decree. You unmade the order of things." Rydian falls to his knees, his chest searing, the mark burning as if her gaze alone could peel his soul apart. "I obeyed," he rasps. "I did everything you asked." The goddess laughs, a sound beautiful and merciless. "You obeyed only your heart." Her voice deepens, rippling through the earth itself. "And now you will pay for it. Blood must bind what blood has broken." Lyra gasps, fighting for control, her hands clawing at the dirt. "Stop," she cries, her voice blending with the goddess's mortal will straining against divine possession. "He's not your weapon." For a moment her defiance silences even the wind. Then the goddess speaks again, colder than before. "Then he will be your cage." A shockwave bursts from the ground, knocking them apart. Rydian collapses against a fallen tree, the light in his chest flaring wildly, while Lyra's mark dims to a faint glow, pulsing slower, almost sorrowfully. The moon fades from the sky, her voice dissolving into the mist, leaving only the echo of her final words. "You are bound until one heart stops beating, and neither will die free. The silence that follows is unbearable. Even the stars look away. When the goddess's voice fades, the forest exhales a broken breath. The mist dissolves, leaving behind a hollow quiet that hums with the memory of divine wrath. The moon's glow is gone, replaced by a faint, bruised light that barely clings to the treetops. Rydian lies where he fell, one hand gripping the soil, the other pressed to his burning chest. Every pulse of his heart feels wrong now, too heavy, too full, as though it beats for more than one soul. Across from him, Lyra stirs. The glow beneath her collarbone flickers weakly, then steadies, its rhythm sinking once more with his. Her breath catches, and she lifts a trembling hand to her throat. "It hurts," she whispers, her voice hoarse, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Every time you breathe, I feel it." Rydian pushes himself upright, his expression grim. "That's her punishment," he murmurs. "If one of us bleeds, the other will too." Lyra glares at him through tears. "Then I hope you never heal." Her words are sharp, but her body betrays her. A shudder runs through her, mirrored instantly in him. Pain shared, suffering doubled. Rydian grits his teeth, steady himself. "You'll only destroy yourself," he says quietly. "That's what she wants." The forest whispers around them, the branches creaking under invisible weight. Far above, the moon flickers behind a veil of clouds, watching, waiting, savoring. Lyra looks away, hugging her knees to her chest. "You killed my brother," she says, her voice breaking now, soft and ragged. "And now you expect me to survive you?" Rydian looks at her for a long moment, the gold in his eyes dimming to amber. "No," he says, "I expect you to hate me. But if we die now, she wins." Their silence hangs heavy, broken only by the rhythmic ache of their shared hearts. When Lyra finally looks up, her eyes glisten, not with forgiveness, but understanding, that cruel, reluctant knowing of two souls caught in the same divine snare. And beneath the broken moon, the prophecy tightens its noose around them both. The next morning dawns gray and hollow, its light diffused through mist and smoke that still drifts from the distant ruins. The world feels smaller now, quieter, as if the forest itself mourns what it has witnessed. Rydian and Lyra move through that silence side by side, not by choice, but by curse. Every step he takes echoes in her bones. Every tremor of her heartbeat stirs in his chest. There is no freedom in distance anymore. Their fates are intertwined threads, pulled taut by divine cruelty. Lyra keeps her eyes on the ground, her anger simmering beneath exhaustion. The ache in her chest has dulled into a steady throb, a cruel reminder that the man walking beside her is both her captor and her mirror. Rydian says little. His jaw remains set, his expression unreadable. Though his eyes betray him, they are haunted. At times she catches him glancing toward the charred horizon where her home once stood. Each time he looks away, as though the sight itself accuses him. As they travel deeper into the wilderness, the whispers begin, faint at first, then clearer. Ghostly voices, carried by the wind, weaving through the trees. Lyra halts, her breath catching. "You hear them too," she says. Rydian nods, his voice low. "The fallen, the moon's victims, souls unburied, bound to wander the places where their faith broke. The goddess's forgotten children. The air grows colder, filled with their murmurs. Why do you walk with him? He wears the blood of your kin. You were meant to die. Lyra's knees weaken under the weight of their grief. "Make them stop," she whispers. Rydian steps closer, his hand hovering over her shoulder, but never touching. "They can't be silenced," he says softly. "They follow me everywhere. They always have." She turns to him, eyes wet with fury. "Then you deserve them." He nods once. "I know." The forest shudders, a low groan rumbling through the roots. The spirits fade, leaving only silence, and in that silence, something unspoken lingers between them, that perhaps hate is not the only bond the goddess forged. That night, the forest sleeps uneasy beneath the red glow of a rising moon. Clouds drift like smoke across her wounded face, and every shadow seems to pulse with a life of its own. Rydian sits apart from the dying fire, his armor discarded, his hands buried in the soil as if trying to anchor himself to something still human. Across the small clearing, Lyra watches him, wary, silent, wrapped in her cloak, though the air has grown colder than bone. The link between them thrums softly, a current of restless energy that neither can ignore. Without warning, the night shifts. The wolves cry out, not in hunger, but in fear. Rydian's head snaps up, his body tensing. The mark on his chest ignites, glowing through the thin fabric of his tunic like molten metal. He grits his teeth, veins rising in his neck, his breath quickening into sharp, ragged pulls. "Stay back," he growls, his voice deepening, the edge of a snarl threading through the words. Lyra rises to her feet. "What's happening?" She demands, but even as she asks, she knows. The curse. The beast. The part of him forged not by choice, but by the goddess herself. His back arches, muscles shuddering, his bones creaking beneath skin as the divine brand forces its true form to surface. His eyes blaze gold, then white, then something inhuman, a reflection of the moon's fury. Lyra stumbles backward as the transformation completes. A wolf of immense size, black as shadow, its fur streaked with faint lines of silver light. The creature lowers its head, eyes burning with pain and recognition. It should have killed her. It was made to. Yet instead it trembles, a weapon refusing its purpose. Lyra's voice cracks the stillness, soft but firm. "You're not a monster," she whispers. The wolf growls low, the sound shaking the leaves from the trees. But when she steps closer, the growl fades into a whine. Above them, the moon glows faintly, not in judgment, but confusion. For the first time in eons, her creature defies her command, and somewhere in the heavens, destiny FLINCHES. The night stretches long and trembling, the fire reduced to a whisper of embers. The black wolf crouches in the clearing, muscles coiled tight, its breath steaming in the chill. Its golden eyes, the eyes of the Alpha King, glimmer with fury barely restrained. Yet somewhere behind that blaze flickers a desperate, wounded soul. Lyra stands before him, her cloak soaked with dew, her heart beating in sync with his trembling growl. Every instinct screams for her to flee, but when she feels the pulse of the bond, that shared, unyielding heartbeat, she knows she cannot. "Rydian," she whispers, the sound carrying through the fog. "You're still in there." The wolf stiffens, ears twitching at the sound of his name. His claws dig deep into the earth, but he doesn't move toward her. The mark on her chest burns faintly, echoing his turmoil. When she takes a single step forward, his growl rises, a warning, guttural and sharp, yet not aimed at her. It's aimed at the curse itself, the divinity that puppets his rage. Lyra lifts her hand, her voice trembling but steady. You said the moon made you her weapon. Then let her watch what happens when her weapon refuses to kill. The wolf's breath comes heavy and uneven. His body convulses as the glow beneath his fur brightens, a storm of silver light rippling down his spine. Lyra presses her hand to his snout, the heat nearly searing her skin. For a heartbeat, everything stills. Then, slowly and possibly, the tension drains from him. The growl fades into a shuddered exhale. His fur cools beneath her touch. The divine light dims. When she opens her eyes again, he is kneeling before her, human once more, trembling, sweat-soaked, his gaze shattered with disbelief. Lyra's hand remains on his cheek. See, she says softly, voice breaking. You were never hers. Rydian stares at her, eyes wet with something that isn't rage. Then whose am I? He whispers Dot, and before either can breathe an answer, the moon above them flickers, her power faltering, her certainty undone by mortal defiance. For the first time since creation, a goddess knows fear. The sky darkens once more, though the night had barely ended. The forest trembles as if something vast stirs beneath the soil, roots quivering, leaves shivering in anticipation of divine wrath. Above, the moon flares suddenly to life, brighter and colder than before, its surface rippling like an open wound in the sky. Lyra and Rydian lift their faces toward it, feeling the air change, the oxygen thinned, charged with the taste of iron and lightning. The goddess has seen their defiance, and now she moves to unmake it. A wind howls through the trees, carrying with it whispers that sound almost human, grief, fury, betrayal. The remnants of her celestial choir scream across the heavens, their voices twisting into words. You were made to destroy, not to love. The ground splits beneath their feet. Fire erupts from the fissures, white and blinding, burning without heat yet searing the soul. Rydian grabs Lyra, shielding her with his body as shards of light rain down from the sky like falling stars. Run, he shouts, but it's too late. The air itself bends, time slows, sound dulls, and suddenly they're weightless, pulled into the heart of the storm. The goddess's voice fills their minds, ancient and endless. You dare break my design? You think your mortal hearts can rewrite what I wrote in blood and sky? Lyra's mark flares, answering the moon's fury with her own. You gave him your curse, she shouts into the wind. But it was his heart that bore it, not your will. The light around them fractures, 1,000 mirror shards spinning into the dark. Rydian's hand tightens around hers as they fall through the void of her anger. Hold on. He roars, then silence. They crash into the heart of the forest, earth and light colliding. When the dust settles, the world is changed again. The moon's glow is gone, replaced by a blood-red halo burning faintly behind clouds. The goddess's voice lingers, low and venomous. You may love in defiance, but you will never love in peace. And as the echo fades, the trees around them begin to wither, the forest itself taking her revenge. The air twists. The soil groans. All around them, the forest begins to move, slowly at first, then with a fury that feels alive. Branches contort like serpents, trees tear themselves from their roots, and thorns sprout from the ground like spears of vengeance. The goddess's wrath takes form not in fire, but in imprisonment. What once sheltered them now becomes their cage. Rydian pulls Lyra to her feet as the forest closes in, walls of bramble and shadow weaving upward, blotting out the blood-red light above. They run, but the path shifts with every step. The trees bend and reform, their bark whispering words that sound too much like the goddess's voice. Love was never yours to hold. The vines lash at their legs, drawing blood, her punishment written in the language of pain. Lyra stumbles, her knees striking the earth. Rydian turns back instantly, cutting through the vines with his blade. But every time he severs one, 3 more grow in its place. She won't stop, Lyra gasps, clutching her chest. The mark burns again, pulsing violently. Rydian lifts her into his arms and runs, though the world itself seems determined to hold them still. The thorns scrape his skin, tearing through his armor, yet he doesn't slow. She can cage us, he growls, voice ragged, but she cannot break us. The forest laughs, a sound like creaking wood and dying stars. The thorns twist together, forming grotesque faces that leer from the darkness. You misunderstand, my son, the goddess's voice hisses. I do not seek to break you. I seek to bind you forever. Rydian stops, breathing hard, his boots sinking into soft, shifting soil. The air thickens, glimmering faintly with her power. Lyra opens her eyes, realization dawning. It's not a prison, she whispers. It's a tomb. The vines rise higher, forming an arch of woven black roses that pulse like beating hearts. The moon's faint red light filters through, painting them both in blood and silver dot, and as the last gap of sky closes above them, the goddess whispers the final cruelty. Until death, neither will escape the other's shadow. The thorns seal shut, and the forest breathes no more. Silence falls again, deep, suffocating, endless. The forest no longer breathes. What was once alive now stands petrified in crimson stillness. The thorns rise higher than walls, woven so tightly that even light struggles to enter. The air smells of earth and iron like a grave freshly sealed. Rydian lowers Lyra gently to the ground, his chest heaving, his body torn from the struggle. Blood seeps through the tears in his tunic, glimmering faintly silver under the moon's dying light. Lyra's breath comes shallow, each inhale trembling, as though the air itself resists her lungs. The mark on her chest pulses faintly, growing dimmer with each beat. She looks up, her eyes reflecting the faint glow above. We won't make it out, she whispers. Her voice is not fearful, only certain. She'll bury us here. Rydian kneels beside her, his hand brushing a strand of hair from her face. Then we take her with us, he says quietly. His tone isn't defiant this time, it's calm, resolute, as if he's already accepted the weight of what must come. The goddess's laughter slithers through the roots, soft and mocking. You still think you have a choice? She whispers, her voice vibrating through the ground. You were born my blade, and she my offering. Both are mine. Rydian's hand tightens into a fist. Not anymore. He unsheathes his dagger, the same one forged from moonsteel, blessed by her temple, the weapon of her will. The blade gleams cold and pure, humming faintly with divine energy. Lyra's eyes widen as realization dawns. If one heart stops beating, she begins. He nods. The bond ends. Tears gather in her eyes, falling soundlessly. You can't. He smiles, a broken, beautiful thing. You once told me I wasn't hers. Maybe this is how I prove it." She reaches up, her trembling hand touching his cheek. "Then let me be the one to do it." He shakes his head slowly. "No, Lyra, you already saved me once. Let me save you back." The vines pulse around them, sensing what's coming, tightening their grip as if the forest itself dreads the end. The dagger glows brighter, the moon flickers overhead, and love prepares to bleed for freedom. The forest trembles, aware of what is about to unfold. Every thorn quivers, every root curls inward as if the earth itself grieves in advance. The blood-red light filtering through the sealed canopy pulses faintly, like the heartbeat of a dying god. Rydian kneels before Lyra, the dagger heavy in his hand, a blade born of the moon's blessing, now turned against her own decree. His chest rises and falls in slow, uneven rhythm, the glow of the divine mark burning through his torn tunic like molten silver. Lyra stares at him, disbelief and sorrow warring in her eyes. "You think your death will end her curse?" she asks softly. "She'll only take you from me and call it justice." Rydian's gaze lifts to hers, steady, aching. "No," he whispers. "She can bind flesh and fate, but not choice. She gave me blood. I'll give her back what she cannot control." He reaches out, his thumb brushing a tear from her cheek. "You were the only thing I ever defied her for," he says, his voice trembling like wind through broken glass. "And she hated me for it. But if I die loving you, she loses." Lyra shakes her head, tears spilling freely now. "Don't do this." Her hands clutch his wrists, desperate, trembling. "I was born under her shadow. I was meant to die by it, not you." He smiles faintly, a ghost of warmth amid ruin. "Then we die free." Before she can stop him, he presses the blade to his chest, just above the mark that glows like a wound of light. The air thickens, the vines thrash, the earth splits. The goddess's voice shatters through the silence. "Rydian!" Her fury shakes the heavens, but the blade is already moving. Lyra screams as he drives the dagger in, light bursting from his chest in a torrent of silver fire. The forest ignites in brilliance, every thorn, every root, every whisper burning away in silence. The moon wails. The curse unravels, and as he collapses into her arms, blood and light mingling, the world holds still, caught between divinity's rage and mortal love's defiance. The light does not fade immediately. It lingers, silver, blinding, infinite, flooding the forest until every branch and thorn glows like crystal. Then slowly it begins to dissolve, carrying with it the scent of rain and iron. When the brilliance dims, only Lyra and Rydian remain within the circle of ruin. He lies motionless in her arms, the dagger still embedded in his chest, the divine mark now a hollow echo, its light flickering out like the last ember of a dying fire. Around them the forest is silent, not in peace but in disbelief. Lyra presses her trembling hand against his heart. "Please," she whispers, "you said we'd die free, but not like this." Her tears fall onto his skin, glowing faintly as they touch the wound, merging with the silver blood that seeps from him. Above, the moon burns crimson, her fury barely contained. "You foolish child," the goddess hisses, her voice shaking the sky. "You've undone my order. You've unmade my son." But for the first time there is something else in her tone, not just rage but grief. The divine cannot cry. Yet the heavens tremble as though she does. Lyra lifts her gaze toward the bleeding moon, her voice breaking yet resolute. If you mourn him, she says, then you know what love costs. Don't call it weakness, call it your own creation. The goddess's silence is deafening. Then from the cracks of the clouds, faint droplets begin to fall. Not rain, but shimmering tears of light. They strike the earth softly, washing the thorns away, cleansing the soil of blood. The vines that bound them begin to wilt, turning to dust under the touch of celestial sorrow. Rydian's body glows faintly, the mark on his chest pulsing once more, slow, fragile, refusing to fade. Lyra bends low, her lips near his ear. "Come back to me," she whispers, voice trembling. "Please." The moon trembles in reply, her glow faltering, as if torn between punishment and pity. And for the first time since the dawn of prophecy, divinity hesitates, suspended in the fragile mercy of her own creation. The sky quivers as though holding its breath. The crimson glow that once bled across the heavens softens, paling into mournful silver. The moon's light spills gently over the forest, not as punishment now, but as lament. The goddess watches the scene below, the mortal woman kneeling in the ashes of her vengeance, the man she made her weapon lying broken in her arms, and something ancient within her begins to fracture. Lyra's sobs rise into the air like prayer, fragile and trembling. "If he was your son," she whispers, "then why did you make him a monster?" For the first time, the moon answers not with thunder, but with silence. Then her voice comes, softer than wind, older than time. "Because love was forbidden to me," she confesses, "and so I cursed it in all its forms." The air shivers with the weight of her admission. Lyra's tears streak down her cheeks, reflecting the goddess's light. "Then lift it," she says. "End the curse. Let him rest." The forest stirs. The roots unwind. The thorns crumble to dust. Above, the moon flickers, her glow dimming as though offering up her own power. "What is broken can be mended only through loss," she murmurs. "But if I grant this mercy, my reign ends. My light will fade." Lyra looks down at Rydian, her hand pressed over his heart. "Then let it fade," she says softly. "The world doesn't need a goddess who rules through sorrow." For a long, eternal moment, the sky stands still. Then light. Not bright, but warm. A wave of silver radiance flows downward, gentle as snow, washing over them. The goddess's presence wanes with every heartbeat, her voice fading like a lullaby sung from far away. "Then take what I could not keep, love that outlives the divine." The mark on Rydian's chest glows one final time, soft and pure. His breath stirs faintly, shallow, human, alive. Lyra gasps, her tears turning into laughter and sobs all at once. And high above, the moon fades into pale dawn, her last act not vengeance, but surrender. Morning creeps quietly across the ruined forest, its light shy and trembling, as though unsure it belongs in a place once drenched in divinity. The thorns have withered into dust. The air, once thick with the scent of blood and lightning, now carries the fragile sweetness of rain-soaked soil. Lyra kneels beside Rydian, her fingers trembling as they hover above his chest. The faintest rhythm meets her touch, weak, unsteady, but real. Her breath catches. Hope stirs like dawn behind her ribs. His eyelids flutter, lashes damp with celestial dew. When his eyes open, the gold that once burned with the moon's fury is gone, replaced by something softer, human, unguarded. "You're crying," he murmurs, his voice rough but alive. Lyra laughs through her tears, shaking her head. "You died," she whispers. "And you came back just to tell me that?" He smiles faintly, each breath a battle. "I came back because you called me." She presses her forehead to his, her tears mixing with his sweat. Around them the sunlight filters through the ashes, breaking into soft beams that paint their faces in gold. The mark on her chest fades, dissolving into faint shimmer before disappearing completely. She glances down at his wound. The dagger's scar glows once, then closes like a healed promise. The curse is gone. The bond remains, not of punishment, but of choice. The world feels still, reverent. Even the birds do not sing. They listen. Lyra exhales shakily, her fingers tracing the line of his jaw. "The moon's gone," she says softly. Ridian nods, his eyes distant, almost sad. Then for the first time he replies, "The world belongs to us." But somewhere deep in the forest, a faint shimmer of silver mist stirs, the last breath of a goddess watching what she could never have. Her light lingers for a moment on Lyra's hair, on Ridian's smile, on the fragile miracle of love reborn. Then, as the dawn fully breaks, her light fades into memory, leaving only two hearts, bound by choice beneath a sky finally free of gods. The sun climbs higher, soft and golden, but its warmth cannot erase the chill that clings to the forest. For every miracle the heavens grant, there is always a price. Lyra feels it first, a strange heaviness in her limbs, as if her body no longer belongs entirely to her. The glow that once filled her chest is gone, but in its place there is an ache, deep and quiet, like something sacred has begun to fade. She hides it behind a smile as Ridian rises unsteadily beside her, his strength returning with each breath. He turns to her, unaware that the bond that saved him now drains her. The birds begin to sing again, tentative, testing the morning. Dew sparkles on the ashes like fragments of stars. Ridian takes her hand, the gesture tender, almost reverent. "We're free," he says softly, his thumb tracing the scar where her mark once glowed. "You broke the curse." Lyra forces a smile, her voice barely above a whisper. "We broke it." He leans closer, resting his forehead against hers. For a moment, the world feels healed. No goddess, no prophecy, no war. Only the heartbeat they share in silence. But as his warmth steadies, hers begins to fade. Her pulse weakens, her breath shortens, yet she says nothing. She only watches him, memorizing the light in his eyes, the gentleness that had once been buried beneath centuries of wrath. When he pulls away to look at her, something in his gaze shifts. "Lyra?" he murmurs. "You're cold." She laughs faintly. Maybe the goddess took the warmth with her. But even as she speaks, her knees buckle. He catches her before she falls, panic breaking through his calm. "No," he whispers. "No, stay with me." She smiles up at him, weakly but peacefully. "Freedom always costs something," she says. "You gave her your blood. I'll give her my breath." The light around them dims, though the sun still burns high. Ridian's arms tighten around her, as the forest holds its silence once more, for love, even when victorious, cannot escape its debt to destiny. Time stills as if the world itself dares not breathe. The morning wind dies among the hollow trees, and every sound dissolves into silence, the kind that follows both miracles and endings. Rydian cradles Lyra in his arms, her head resting against his chest where once the mark of the moon burned. Now only his heartbeat fills the air, steady but breaking with each trembling breath. Her eyes, half-lidded and fading, shimmer faintly in the light, not with fear, but peace. "Don't go," he whispers, his voice a plea swallowed by the quiet. "The curse is broken. You're free now." Her lips part, the ghost of a smile tracing them. "So are you," she breathes. "And that's enough." Her fingers, cold yet gentle, brush his cheek. He presses his face into her palm as though he could anchor her soul there. But her touch is already slipping away, her warmth bleeding into the dawn. The sky grows pale above them, the last remnants of silver mist dissolving where the moon once lingered. For a moment it almost seems as though the heavens themselves hesitate, unwilling to move on. Then slowly, tenderly, the light gathers around her, soft, luminous, ethereal. The goddess's last gift. Rydian's tears fall freely now, mingling with the shimmer that rises from her skin. "I don't want a world without you," he says. Lyra's gaze finds his, steady and eternal even as her breath falters. "Then carry me in it," she whispers. "That's all the world I ever wanted." The light swells once more, and then she is gone. No scream, no sound, only the quiet hum of love, transcending what gods could bind. Rydian falls forward, clutching the space she leaves behind. His cry breaking the dawn dot, and as the sun climbs, its light touches the still waters of the forest, where her reflection lingers one last time before fading into gold dot above. The heavens remain dark where the moon should have been. She does not rise. She cannot, for even the moon knows she has seen enough.